Welcome to the Spearo Hangout, where we talk all things spearfishing, freediving and foraging. We're three guys from Devon in the UK who are excited to share some of the learnings from our spearfishing journey with you over the coming episodes. We bring in some special guests along the way to help spread some in-depth Spearo knowledge from some of the most experienced people in the scene.
How's it going, lads?
Not bad. How are you?
Good.
You must be really good today because what did you get?
Yeah, that was a pretty epic dive. My first gilthead bream.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, cheers, man. Yeah, it was really good. Got gilthead bream, 2 mackerel, massive mackerel, and 1 place, 7 scallops.
Did you go there specifically for Gilhead then? Did you know they were there?
Yeah, I got given a bit of a clue. So.
From the boyfriend. It's all paying off.
So
you must have some serious lockjaw at the moment. Honestly.
What are you implying? So I went there on the hunt for gilt, got my gilt and a few extra little bits. So happy with that.
Nice,
congratulations, mate.
And talking about paintballs, that went out yesterday afternoon with Ben, and there was one point we were probably only in like 4 meters of water, 5 meters of water,
something like
and
that.
this bait ball came at me, and just everything went dark, and it was actually really fucking scary. And they were swimming like the clappers, and it was actually like, oh my god! And I could feel a couple of them hit my suit. And it was just really weird, but there was not. It didn't look like there was anything chasing them. So whether I spooked off whatever was chasing them, but yeah, it was weird to be in a bait ball like that.
Yeah, good dive though. You had a few Dover sole, didn't you? Which is really nice.
Yeah. No, I got 19 points yesterday towards a species comp.
Nice.
So I got my final Dover sole for 7 points, and then I got 2 red mullet. Well, yesterday I got 3 Dover sole, 3 red mullet, and a pollock. But towards the species comp, yeah, it was really, really good afternoon into the early evening night.
Really fishy, wasn't it? It was. I haven't
especially
seen so
all the
many
carcasses.
Well, yeah, that was bizarre, wasn't it? But yeah, like, I haven't seen so many pollock in such a small space that were like of edible size in a long time. That was really cool, and so many Dover sole around.
Yeah, it's definitely quite fishy the last couple of days, eh? Like you guys
need to get out again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully Friday.
And Ben,
what guilt spot?
We'll see. Ben, what did you have the other day, mate?
Oh, did I go out again as well? Did I? Oh, as in like yesterday afternoon?
No, your 8-legged friend.
What did I get? I had a lobster.
Your 8-legged friend.
Oh, that feels like ages ago. When was that? Last Friday. Last Friday. Yeah, huge octopus. God, it does feel like ages ago. That was epic though. And I got to thank Lawrence for putting me onto it. But
yeah, that was crazy, man.
Yeah, I know not everybody's okay with taking octopus after the what's that film called? My Friend Octopus or something?
My 8-legged friend.
My octopus friend. Anyway, I don't know if I really buy it. I mean, we eat pigs, for example, and pigs are pretty intelligent creatures. So I was quite happy to take the octopus, and it was big enough that we could share it out between all 3 of us that were diving. So I think you took a leg or 2, Richard, didn't you? And Lawrence took a leg or 2, and I took the rest. And man, that was delicious.
It was
not expecting that. And I was really surprised because so many people gone about how tough it is and how almost inedible it is, and it's not worth it. Disagree, have to say. As long as you cook it for long enough and slow enough, absolutely delicious. So I've still got another couple of legs in the freezer, so I'm really looking forward to digging into that because it must be like 5 kilograms we worked out, didn't we, Rich?
Yeah, 5 kilos. Yeah, that thing was lovely, man. I bought it for ages, and it turned out lovely. Honestly, it was so good. Yeah, definitely take one again. Yeah, for sure, man. Nice.
Yeah, that's definitely with octopus. Same with squid. Same with cuttlefish. It's all in the cooking.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Absolutely.
So yeah, boys, I'm looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, well, Mammal, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. He's joining us from Australia as well, so we're I think it's going to be a good episode, lads.
Yeah, it's awesome. He's been traveling around a little bit recently, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah, all the way from Fiji, I think. So he's been spearing over in Fiji, so
fantastic.
Looking forward to getting into it with him.
Where is he now?
Sydney, I believe.
Sydney, Australia. in back. Excuse my horrendous accent. Well, let's get him on.
Hey Sam, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Very good. Welcome, Sam. Good to have you on.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to see you, mate.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
So, whereabouts in the world are you, considering I think you've got probably more air miles than any other spearfisher on Earth?
I'm currently in Fiji. No, I'm not. I'm in Sydney.
You even forgot.
He doesn't even know where he is.
It's quite early morning. Have you had your morning coffee yet?
No, not yet. No stimulants or anything. I've literally just around and away we go. So yeah, I'm in Sydney at the moment. I've only been in Sydney about a week and a half and haven't managed to get wet yet. So it's pretty beautiful weather here.
Do you have like somewhere you call home?
Yeah, so Sydney would be like typically home. And then since COVID, it's all been a bit up in the air. So I've been darting around a lot more than I typically would.
Right.
So I've been UK, Fiji, Indonesia, Singapore. Yeah, I've been about.
Incredible. Some awesome adventures on your YouTube channel.
Well, cheers, man. Yeah, it's been a wicked couple of years of stepped back from work a little bit and decided to pursue a bit more of the outdoors life. So yeah, it's been really good.
Well, just to pull you back a little bit, or pull us back a little bit. So, sorry, Sam, tell us a bit about you, who you are, what you're known as, obviously in the community and on social media, and what is it you do?
Yeah, sweet. So, my name's Sam Clovier. I'm known online as the Wet Mammal, and to my mates as Wet Mammal. And basically, I just make spearfishing content. I'm a spearo I'm from the UK originally, and I've darted around a fair bit and covered a fair bit of the South Pacific, Australia, Southeast Asia, spearfishing, and video to kind of show everybody what spearfishing actually is, what it entails, and why I do it as well. And then I try and combine that with a few of my other passions, which include cooking and hiking. So just try and amalgamate everything into one good little adventure.
Living the dream. Where does the name Wet Mammal come from? Is that something you just came up with?
No, one of my mates gave it to me. So after living with me for a little bit, I was just permanently wet, either spearfishing or swimming. And I was walking across the living room one day, and he was just like, "Oh fuck, you are just a wet mammal, aren't you?" And then it just kind of
stuck. Yeah, love it.
There we go.
Yeah, nice. So you obviously you learned to spearfish in the UK, is that right? Or is that where you started off?
Yeah. So I started. There was you should know him actually, Matt Hill. Was spearfishing. I didn't know it was Matt Hill at the time. I was tombstoning off our local cliffs in Torquay, and we saw this body in the water, and he was kind of diving up and diving down. At first, we didn't even know it was human. We couldn't work out what was going on, and then he came up with a fish and presented a fish to us whilst we were up on the cliffs. So we kind of jumped in on him, which wasn't the safest thing to do, but then was basically just fascinated with the fact that he had managed to catch this bass. And he had a few other bass. This was before the days of the 2-bag limit. He had a few other bass on his stringer, and I was just like, wow, that is super cool. I was already into hunting at that stage for just rabbits and wood pigeon and hare, but never seen anything like that for the water. So I was like, wow, that's really cool. So just spoke to him. We went to the same school, so he hooked me up with a fair bit of gear, and then we attempted it ourselves, me and my mate, and then we eventually got the help from Matt Hill because of we were a bit useless, me and my other mate Matt Miller. So.
That's awesome. How old are you then?
I think about 13 years old.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, I mean, first of all, Matt Hill isn't really human, is he? I mean, the depths that he can dive to.
No,
he's more fish than he is human, really.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal diver, and a phenomenal spearo as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, do you feel that obviously, starting off in the UK, you obviously got a good fin for going overseas, and do you feel like it sort of helped you any of your diving overseas? I mean, because the diving is a lot different, but diving in murky water here most of the time, the stalking and all those bits and pieces? Do you think it helped you abroad?
Absolutely. I think the only place that it wouldn't help you is the med, where you're required to go like really deep for fish. But yeah, coming from the UK, like starting off in the UK is amazing, because if you pick up a passion for a sport where you've only got a limited amount of months where you can spearfish in the year realistically, like effectively, yeah, you've got poor conditions in terms of visibility. Although I have noticed over my lifespan that is improving like significantly year on year almost. And the water temperatures, if you can deal with the water temps, the murkiness of the water, and the kind of lack of fish for like a decent chunk of the year, and you froth spearfishing, you'll absolutely froth it everywhere else you go, because it's just, yeah, it's amazing. Definitely being able to like hold bottom time at depth in the cold is a massive bonus to spearfishing in the UK, because when you go abroad and you're in warmer waters, your bottom time will like double, which will effectively lay you on fish. So it's
nice.
Yeah, I think it's a great place to learn.
Awesome. Yeah, nice one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And talking about bottom time, I remember listening to something that you were on not too long ago, and you were saying how I think when you started spearfishing, you used to breathe up in a non-clever way, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And obviously, talk us through that. Obviously, when you started, how did you breathe up on the surface? What's your learning curve been like?
Yeah, it's been absolutely huge. So yeah, hyperventilation was the go for many years. And basically I just get myself on the surface and just breathe in and out really quickly, and then take in one big breath and then dive down. And I noticed that I was really comfortable underwater, could stay down for like, at the time, what I thought was like a decent amount of time. And that's how I spearfished for years and years and years. And then it was an incident in Western Australia with a lobster, trying to get it out of the hole, and I was on my own. I was probably like 400 to 600 meters off the beach, and yeah, the lobster was only in maybe like 7-8 meters of water, something like that. And yeah, I was really struggling to get this lobster out of its hole. Had a hold of both of its antlers. This is the rock lobster that we've got in Australia.
Yeah.
I had a hold of both of its antlers, and I was really trying to like wriggle it out, and it was just, yeah, being stubborn. But I'm really quite stubborn as well, so I refused to let go. Anyway, eventually got the lobster out and swam up to the surface. And as I swam up to the surface, I felt incredibly like euphoric. My fingers went tingly. I went really lightheaded and just felt great. I actually let go of the lobster, and then my head was out of the water at that point, and I felt my like chin and everything just go like a little bit below the water. And then I was like, whoa. And then it like woke me up. I was like, what the hell was that? So that was a huge wake up call to get myself on a freediving course, which I'd never done up until that point. So I booked myself in, and yeah, sure enough, found out probably within the first 30 minutes that what I've been doing for like 10 years was completely wrong. So hyperventilation.
From the back of that course, just talk us through for the listeners what the hyperventilation is. Why is it a good thing? Why is it a bad thing? What's it for? What's its place? Does it have a place in spearfishing at all? What have you learned since then?
So yeah, from the freediving course, I got taught that basically it's bad. The reason why it makes you feel comfy, like the best description I've ever been given is a smoke alarm. So your body's got this smoke alarm system for CO2, and when your CO2 starts to build up and your oxygen obviously depletes, the oxygen transfers into CO2 as your body burns it. The alarm, basically by hyperventilating, you basically take the batteries out of the alarm. So as the oxygen comes down and CO2 increases, you're not getting that alarm system to say, hey, it's time to breathe.
Yeah.
Which is why it feels like really comfortable. So yeah, I mean, in terms of feeling comfy underwater, it's a good thing, but you're shutting off your alarm system, which can lead to blackouts like a lot quicker, because if you're ignoring this, like all the signs and systems that tell you to go up for air, you're just completely ignoring those. But you have to ignore them anyways, just not to that extent.
Yeah, so it's the CO2 that gives you that urge to breathe, and obviously hyperventilating before you go down purges your body of the CO2 that it's got normally, and so it enriches the oxygen in your blood, stops, like you say, stops that fire alarm from going off to say, oi, get to the surface. Your lungs, your body's starting to get low, or well, no, it's your body's starting to get high on CO2, so you need to breathe. But then because of the fact that you haven't got that urge, you lose your O2, at which point I think it's 93% and or something along those lines, 92%, and your brain just shuts down. Hence the reason shallow water blackout.
Yeah, exactly. So your body works on like a negative feedback system. So it's the CO2 that actually indicates us to breathe, not the oxygen declining in our body.
Sam, what are your thoughts on O2 and CO2 tables? So, as I understand it, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, CO2 tables is to increase your CO2 tolerance. So it will suppress the urge to breathe effectively. And O2 tables allow your body to cope with a lower level of oxygen. Is that true? Where's their place in spearfishing?
I find them incredibly dangerous because they're incredibly addictive and fun. So as you get really, really close to that CO2, as that CO2 increases, you do get all the euphoric feelings and everything, and it's a bit like chasing the dragon on it. It's I've only ever done it in pools on freediving courses, and I've absolutely loved it. But I wouldn't trust myself doing it in open water, and I wouldn't trust myself doing it on my own because of it. It is a lot of fun, and it feels incredible. So,
have you ever done it like, say, sat on a sofa or laid in bed?
No, I don't do any dry training at all. I'm one of those people that like I'm lucky enough to spend enough time in the water, so I'll kind of do training in water. And just from like spearfishing, like on a typical week, I would spearfish probably like 3 to 5 times a week. So I'm getting enough diving in that I don't need to do dry training. I think when I was really young and getting into it, I did a bit of dry training, but I just couldn't find it enjoyable. And I didn't see any benefit from doing it, but I wasn't exercising. I was just like doing statics, led in bed. Most benefit I got from doing that when I was younger, like 13, 14, was in the bath. And then you've got the mammalian dive reflex kicking in from the water. And I think that's a bit more helpful, but also nobody wants to black out and die.
Say quite dangerous as well.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a buddy that sits next to you in the bath. So, Rich, next time I go for a bath, Rich, can you just come over and sit next to me,
mate,
please?
I'm there, no worries.
And hold your hand.
Hold and just give me mouth to mouth if my head goes under the water.
I'll leave you there.
Are there bubbles in the bath or
not? And what end are they coming out of?
There better be a rubber ducky, man. What Anthony was referring to before was that you've been on the Noob Spiro podcast, haven't you? Yeah. I mean, the listeners don't actually know this, but we're in touch with Shrek in a minute, and we're just trying to arrange a date for him to come on here. So that's gonna be quite cool.
Shameless plug.
and vice versa, we're going to be on his. So that's epic, man. Like, really looking forward to that one. But your episode was really good on Shrek's podcast. So the listeners should go over there and listen to that one as well. But so just bringing it back to the UK a bit, like when you do come back, does the UK spearfishing scene still do it for you? Like, is it still enough after what you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's kind of because I grew up with it, so it's a bit like nostalgic, or if like it is just amazing. But in terms of life, when the UK turns on, it's on. Like for those months between like May and like August, September, it is fantastic. Like I love diving in the UK.
Oh mate, even October's pretty good at the minute.
Yeah. I mean, things are changing so much from when I was a kid. I can remember August always being the month that fired, and then the last 2 Septembers I've spent in the UK, the Septembers were better than the August. So yeah, I imagine that October is going to be even better.
Oh mate, temperature, just Anthony's shaking his head at me because I shot my first gilt head today.
Congratulations, man.
Cheers, man.
I'm sat here shaking my head. No, October's the one where it's lit. That's only because you keep fucking going out in October.
I said October could be pretty good.
That's because you're only catching the good fish now. It would have been May if you'd have caught the good fish in May.
Well, there you go. Anytime's a good time, mate, especially in the water.
That's it.
Oh,
So, Sam, when you come back versus obviously the open blue water, the pelagic, is you said that it sort of harps back and it's sort of nostalgic. Would you say, obviously, the depth of the viz is completely different, but would you say it's harder to dive in the UK and fish in the UK than it is in the pelagics, or?
For some aspects, yes, and then for other aspects, no. So bass, it's really hard to work out as well, because obviously you've got experience factoring in. So like bass, I grew up hunting bass, and they're one of my favorite fish to hunt. I seem to be quite successful at getting bass, like, and I know my spots now, and they seem relatively easy to hunt, but I think that could only come from experience, because I've spoken to other people and they really struggle to get onto bass consistently. So it's really hard to work out like what's experience and then what is like difficult. But no, I still love like just lying down in kelp and waiting for big fat pollock to come in, and that's
Yes.
absolutely sick. It's it's slightly different from most parts that like I explore and dive in Australia, just because of it's a bit more kelpy, whereas the stuff that I dive in Oz is a bit more like reef, and particularly like it's becoming more and more barren from like sea urchins and stuff like that. Um, and it seems to be a bit more scattered. But I think the UK overall has got like a really really good like topography underwater for diving, that lends itself with like awesome ledges, caves, swim throughs. So it's got good ground as well that like you do find in other countries, but I think the UK is just really cool for it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And have you learned anything abroad that kind of helps you when you come back to the UK as well? I guess dive time all helps, but are there any like particular techniques or?
So one thing that's like massive with some of the reef species and the pelagics are using flashes and things to draw fish in.
Oh,
Now I
yeah.
actually haven't tested this with UK fish, but like if it works for fishing, I imagine it would work for spearfishing. So I'd be really interested to see how that goes. But techniques, just kind of doing the dead drop dives. That's one of my like favorite things to do, where like I literally do a duck dive and then kind of shake my body a little bit, like vibrate my body a bit as if like something's happened to me, and then just let the weight and the descent take me down. And fish really seem to like come in and find that really interesting, as, oh, what's happened to this thing? So that's like, one of my favorite techniques. That works really, really well with moo. And it works well with pollock, but that's the same as just lying in kelp for pollock as well.
Very interesting.
Well, going back to what you were saying about flashes, we had Arian, who's the Sky marine spearfisher that we went up for a few days for in Scotland a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying how some of the dives that he's been doing while he's had friends on the shore fishing into where he's fishing, and how he'll have spinners and stuff in the water or floats with bait on, and the fish just aren't interested at all in flashes, spinners, bait, or anything. And then he's coming up, obviously having speared the 8, 9, 10, 11 pound pollock. And his mates are like not getting a single bite or anything. And he's saying the fish just aren't interested in that at all. Maybe that was that specific day. And again, I think he only did it the once, but it's just, it would be good to see with flashes, because I know that they're banned in all of the BSA national competitions. You're not allowed to use a flasher. So whether that's come from, flashes are good, similar as we see on YouTube and with your YouTube from the pelagics.
It's interesting because Erin was saying his friend Josh, who we also had on the podcast previously, had tried it with some success, but Erin's never had much success with it. I wonder if it'd be worth actually explaining what a flasher is for those listeners that don't know.
Yeah, sure. So a flasher is like a fish attracting device. So it's often just something that's highly reflective, and sometimes they might make a noise. The best ones I found are ones that have like basically like steel, and it's shaped in a way where it's got like a curve and a spiral. So when you lift it up, when you jig it, it actually spins the flasher, and then it's got highly reflective tape of like blood marks and so on it. so it will spin, which reflects light. But you need light for it to work.
Yeah.
If you try using it in really gloomy conditions, it probably wouldn't work too well at all. And it works best when the light's on an angle, so like quite early in the morning and then quite late in the evenings, like the best time, because if you've got like that kind of angled light coming in and hitting the flasher, as opposed to just straight down light, which doesn't seem to pop the flasher as much in terms of reflecting the light.
Yeah, and is it like a minimum viz that you need to have? Like, is it you need 10 meters really for it to be effective, or?
Yeah, I would say the more viz, the better, but it depends on the fish that you're hunting, because if some fish can see what it is from like a great distance, they'll kind of come in close, like 15 meters, but they won't come right up to it. Whereas when it's around that like 12, 15 meter viz mark, I seem to be getting a lot more fish come in, because they have to come closer to obviously inspect what the flasher is. Some fish will stop dead on it. So annoyingly in Fiji, I got in the water and my flasher had been thrown over the side of the boat, and then I was gearing up and it took me a little bit longer to get ready. And then I slid into the water, and when I slid into the water, there was just a dogtooth tuna, like a 20-kilo dogtooth tuna, just
No
sat
way.
looking at, and it was still in the water, sat looking at the flasher. I thought, how long has he been sat there?
Yeah,
Anyway,
and
by the time
how
we
can I get down as fast as possible?
yeah, how can I get my bands loaded and dive down on it and crack it? So yeah, he buggered off anyways. But yeah, it's amazing how with some fish it just absolutely captivates them, and then with other fish it actually spooks them off. So yeah, you
Nice.
really want to be targeting like specific fish if you're using a flasher.
Interesting.
Nice.
It's the same with sounds as well, isn't it? We find some fish come in more with sounds and some fish are a little bit scared off. The same with motion actually as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, like with on the sound front. So trevally in Fiji, I'll look a bit ridiculous doing this, but if you make a kind of purse your lips and go, that's an insane calling tactic for trevally.
Really?
They just come straight in. Yeah. And you can be on a dive and have not seen a trevally all day and dive down onto a bit of reef and make that noise, and they just suddenly appear. It's like you're summoning them.
Amazing.
Anthony's definitely trying that one when he goes off Friday.
Yeah. What if that works on gillheads?
Yeah. Try it on all the
Right.
bass.
It's a different sound that's worth exploring. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just going back to what you were saying a second ago, that one of your favorite fish to fish for in the UK is bass. Is there anything abroad that you would compare or liken to bass fishing, their sort of their personality, their fishing techniques out there?
Yeah, so when bass is schooled up, it's very similar to I think Australian salmon, the way that you can just be like, yeah, on top of a reef or whatever and just like static waiting for something to come in, and then all of a sudden just get engulfed by this like absolute like spiraling tornado. That's really, really cool. So Australian salmon in Sydney is probably the fish most common to do that. Kingfish do that as well. But often they're like undersized when they're in big schools like that. In New Zealand, I've seen plenty of videos of kingfish that are like 40 kilos, 30 kilos, and they're doing that, which is just ridiculous.
Wow.
But then in terms of like hiding in the weed and like ambushing, I don't think we really do in Sydney. We don't really have that kind of like habitat, or if we do, we don't spear it. So yeah, I'm not too sure. The bass is one of my favorite fish for hunting for flavor as well, because of I love bass.
Yeah.
Nice.
See, I'm still trying to turn everybody onto wrasse. The wrasse are just not safe with me. But
what's your favorite fish abroad? Do you have like a
hunt or to eat?
Eat.
To eat, I've got to say that the emperor species is definitely like moving up in my list. So the buffalo emperor, and there's a thumbprint emperor as well. That's like quite a small species of emperor, but it's absolutely delicious. Like I love it. There's something about that fish that it just gets me going. It's wicked. Other things like Spanish mackerel is pretty incredible. we've got red rock cod, which in Europe I think the cousin is like the scorpion fish, and
Okay.
that's sensational eating. But goatfish have to be probably my favorite fish of all time. Oh,
Is
lovely.
is
Yeah,
that is that red mullet? Is that what goatfish is?
it is. Yeah.
I'm a goatfish king. Oh, I never knew they were called goatfish. Whenever I saw the goatfish on your YouTube on your videos, I was like, they look a lot like red mullet, but they can't be because they're called goatfish.
Yeah, yeah, same
Yep.
same species or like same family. The incredible the flavors that you get from them, like the individual species, you can line them all up and taste them, and you know that they're all goatfish, but they've all got real distinct flavors that are just incredible.
Nice.
Yeah.
The best thing with them is the fact that also you bread them or flour them and you can eat them whole, and it's just
Yeah.
nothing goes to waste. They've got such small innards as well. The only thing that I do find, don't leave them overnight before you remove the guts because
Oh
they
no, yeah,
stink to the high heavens.
Well, it's prawns,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's bound to.
Oh,
I did mine on the barbecue today. I left the scales on, and they went all crispy, like you'd shown me, Anthony, the
oh,
other day.
nice.
Oh, absolutely delicious. Butterflied it, and I've got the hang of butterflying now as well, which is quite cool.
Nice.
Third time lucky.
I've frozen my 3 just because we've just been absolutely manic this week. So I've
Your
still
freezer must be massive.
I went through it earlier just to pull out some bacon and stuff, and I've probably got, it's got to be at least 40 kilos of fish in that freezer.
40 kilos of wrasse.
Yeah, that's 40 kilos of wrasse and everything else. But and so on the flip side of your favorite fish, you did the I can't remember what it's called, inedibles,
undesirables.
undesirables. That was it.
Yeah.
So, what was the thing that made you gag? Like, what's the one fish that you're like, fuck that?
The rock kale, definitely. It's like for it to live in the ocean and for it to live kind of where it lives and other fish that you get in the same environment, I don't understand how it's turned out so wrong. Like it's crazy. There's so we've got a black drummer which eats weed and lives on a similar diet to the rock kale, I believe, and they taste wicked. Yet this rock kale, it tastes like something out of like a freshwater pond. It's got like a muddy taste to it.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I really didn't like that. There's a close relative, the herring kale, and I've heard similar stories, which I'll eventually cover. That's going to get a reboot in the next few months, the undesirables. So I'll be leading in with more of those, and we've still got the
Nice.
mullet to come.
Yeah, nice, man.
Nothing wrong with a mullet. We love a mullet.
Yeah, we love a mullet.
You just take all the sewage out of it, and it's a lovely fish. All the bog roll.
Yes, that leads us on to like your YouTube channel, Sam, like Wet Mammal. I mean, it's YouTube channel. It's more of a persona, I guess. What was the inspiration behind it, and where do you see it going?
So I started the YouTube. I've always enjoyed making videos. I had a channel when I was like 13 for cliff jumping, and used to edit up all the videos of the boys doing cliff jumps in Torquay. And then so I've always enjoyed videoing and editing. And then when I moved to Australia when I was 21 or 20, I was trying to make videos to show family what I was doing, and I started off by making like actual DVDs where I'd like rip video files onto DVDs and then post them back to family so that they could see what I was getting up to in Australia.
Oh, nice.
And then I realized that was a really ineffective way of sharing the content, especially after a few like DVDs got lost. So then I basically created the YouTube channel because of it's just like streaming. So I did that, and it seemed to go quite well. And then when I moved over to the east coast of Australia and I was based in Sydney, I then just got onto it more regularly, and then I got some good feedback from the like Sydney spearfishing community. So then I was like, actually, you know what, this is a great way to like educate people on stuff and like showcase like legal size limits and vulnerability of fish, like the sustainability of spearfishing. And then it's been on a bit of a kind of journey. I've sometimes just wanted to showcase like hike in the outdoors and kind of inspire other people to get out there and do like get involved with spearfishing, because although like a lot of people don't want more people to spearfish, I would prefer that people don't commercially support commercial fishing. So I always see if I'm influencing people into spearfishing, that's better than buying the fish commercially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
In your
sweet,
latest
man.
video, I wanted to ask a question about it. It was your first Chinaman fish in Fiji. I think it's the latest one anyway. That's the latest one I've watched. That dive, that looked really deep. Like you were descending for what, like a minute? Like
Yeah, it
constantly
was.
finning. You must have been absolutely shattered.
Yeah, I was. Well, it took me out because of I ended up getting a lung squeeze from that dive. So
Yeah.
I sound loads of people have commented and like dropped DMs on Insta saying like, dude, what's the matter with you? You sound miserable. And it's like I don't have the most enthusiastic voice like at best of times. But yeah, no, I was in pain when I did the audio for that. So basically, yeah, gained a lung squeeze. That was the second dive of the day, and I don't have a dive watch, but I've shown it to a few like free diving instructors and other Spiro mates, and they all reckon that it's like 32 to 34 deep, which is like pretty deep. It's not the deepest that I've shot a fish at, but like it was silly not to have warmed up or anything.
Yeah.
Mm.
Nice fish
Well,
though, nevertheless.
We're just going to go for a
Yeah,
quick
good.
break and resort our audio. So we'll be back in 2, and then we'll talk to you more about what a lung squeeze is and how you can obviously avoid it. But speak to you in a minute. So just before we cut off, you were saying about obviously that deep dive you did and lung squeeze. So tell us a bit more about that. What was lung squeeze? What was your experience with lung squeeze, and what do you know about it? What does it feel like?
So I've actually had a couple of them now. So this is why one of the reasons why I've come back to Australia to obviously get like X-rayed and get it like checked out seriously. And because I dive frequently and like I want to continue diving frequently, I'm keen to like find out what's going on. So
and
I got my
die.
first one. Yeah, and not die, which is obviously that's quite important. So I got my first one. It would have been. I thought I had one in the Philippines in 2016, and it turned out that it wasn't. It was just like a blood vessel in my sinus, that basically just like exploded. So with that one, that was quite funny. So I was diving with a friend, and we were just free diving. We weren't spearfishing, and I was just like seeing like how deep I could go and so on. I wasn't using my actual fin, so we weren't going like hell for leather, but I think we were diving around definitely like past like the 20-meter mark. And I was coming up from one dive and he buddy dived down and joined me at like 4 meters, 5 meters. And the whole dive up, the ascent, I had like pressure building in my nose, and it was like right at the bridge of the nose, but like at the back. And it was just building and building and building and building. And then as I came up to the surface, I kind of sneezed. And as I sneezed, the mask just filled with blood. It just went.
Gross.
So from his point of view, he thought that my eyes exploded because of the mask literally just went like and just like went red.
Some kind of Alien versus Predator shit.
Yeah, but it felt incredible. Like all of the pressure that had built up suddenly, obviously released. So I thought that was a lung squeeze, and I thought that because if I had my mouth closed, the blood couldn't come up, so it came out of my nose. But I was getting that confused with something else. So my first actual lung squeeze was this year in Fiji, and I'd had a sinus infection and had 10 days off diving. I didn't dive for 10 days. I was actually in like a really rough state on an island with like no power, no running water, nothing.
Oh,
and
no.
it sucked. So after that, about maybe 3-4 weeks after that, I got back into diving, but slowly. And this was probably the first time that I'd gone like past 25 meters since the sinus infection. And I did everything wrong again. I didn't do any stretches. I didn't do any kind of warm up. Just went down to about 25 and came up. And as I came up, I arched quite funny when I came up, just to get like myself in the position to go back up quickly. And I must have overextended my lungs, like stretched my lungs when I did the bend to go up. And I basically just got like initial pain, literally for like 2 seconds in my left lung. And it was like the lower chamber, like the lower section of your lung, and that wore off. And I was like, oh, okay, sweet, I'm fine. And then I got to the surface, and then I started coughing, and sure enough, I was coughing up bright red, like blood. That persisted for about 20 minutes to half an hour, and it wasn't like it wasn't like huge amounts of blood every single time. It was like a standard kind of spit, whatever spit standardized as, but of blood, and it was like red and sometimes like quite foamy.
Shit.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
And so with that pain that you felt in your lung, just trying to imagine it myself, did it feel like a left hand, right hand stitch, or what was the pain?
So yeah, more of a painful stitch, like a stitch with like it's really hard to describe because it is quite unique. Like it's a unique sensation.
Mm. Your lung collapsing is quite a specific thing, Sam.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not like stubbing a toe. It's yeah, a stitch would actually be like probably the best way of describing it, actually. Like I was trying to describe it to other people, like when you're really dehydrated and your kidney hurts. It's like that, but on your lung. Like it's that kind of like soreness and pain. But yeah, it went away after a few seconds, and then I was like, oh, okay, cool. But I knew from doing the freediving courses that I'd had a lung squeeze, so chilled out on the dive in and everything. Just because of you're more susceptible to shallow water blackouts once you've had a lung squeeze.
Right.
So we don't want to black out. And then yeah, so that kind of happened, and then I think I chilled out for probably not long enough, with like maybe a day or 2 days, and then I was like back diving down to like decent depth. Nothing really came up again for a couple of weeks, and then after one dive, it wasn't particularly deep. I just noticed that when I was spitting, yeah, there was like little bits of blood in it, but not heaps.
Breaking
So then I
those
was
blood
like,
vessels
okay.
again.
Yeah, blood vessels. So yeah, then nothing happened. I came back to the UK. I didn't dive half as much as I thought I was going to in the UK. And I was very cold in UK waters for the first time of my life. But then I've returned to Fiji, and then yeah, I had that occur on a spearfishing charter, like another lung squeeze, and then I had to do some like deep drops to free up a gun after I'd had this lung squeeze. I was already on the boat like spitting blood, but the gun was trapped at like 25 meters, I think, off the top of my head, maybe 26 meters. So I had to like dive down, try and like get the fish out of the cave, give it one last go, and I couldn't. So then I had to swim down a bit deeper, cut the spear, and then go back. And I tried getting the fish out once I cut the spear and couldn't get it out. So then I had to cut the line and then grab the gun, went up to the surface, and then almost had a shallow water blackout, which was not good at all. And that's on film. I'll get around to uploading that at some point. And from my perspective, I came up and I thought that the dive had gone quite well. I knew that I'd been down there for like quite some time, but I thought that the dive had worked out really well when I came up to the surface and like took a breath of fresh air and everything. And then all of a sudden, Zaki, like my dive buddy, came over and he had his hands like underneath my chest. And he was like, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "Dude, like I'm fine." Like almost like kind of get off me, like I'm fine. And that's what I remember. But then watching the video back, it's horrific. So I come from Zaki's footage. I come up and he asked me if I'm all right, and I go, "Yeah, bro, all right." Like sound really drunk. And then I put my face straight back in the water, and I put my snorkel into my mouth, which is a bad habit that I've got. But the snorkel is actually underwater, and I put it in my mouth, and then he puts his hands up underneath me and says, "Are you all right?" And as soon as he says, "Are you all right?" it's like, yeah, I don't know, it's like a stimulant kicks in because you can just see my
Snap.
face. I just
Back in the
instantly
room.
like come to. Yeah, it's really scary, and especially because of from my perspective, I thought everything was all right. But the video lets out that probably 3 meters below the surface, I let out all my air. So you just see like bubbles coming out of me, and then I like continue to go to the surface. It's crazy. So yeah, that was just me being stubborn. I shouldn't have gone back for the fish. I should have just gone down. We agreed that I was going to cut the line, so I should have just gone down, cut the line, and then come up, and would have been sweet. But ideally, I didn't want to be diving after a lung squeeze. So it is definitely more common after like to black out after a lung squeeze, and that's proof of that, I think.
Mm.
And then there was like a 2-month gap or 6-week gap between getting the last one on that Chinaman. But I'm so lazy, so I do everything wrong on that dive. I didn't stretch. I didn't do any lung stretches before diving deep, and I suppose this comes up from diving in the UK, like young, without any training. It just never became part of my routine to do like lung stretches and warm up dives. Because if you're only diving to 12 meters, you might dive to 6 meters on the first one, and then you can dive to 12 meters, no dramas. But when you dive in like 20, 30 plus meters, 35 plus meters, you really need to like take it slow and build your way down to the depth, because of the pressure like doubling because of Boyle's law. So that's one thing that definitely would have helped. But when I got the one on the Chinaman, I dove down, and yeah, that was the second dive of the day, and the first dive of the day was already like 20 something meters, I think. And then yeah, boom. This was a more prolonged pain. I had it on the surface and when I was in the boat, and I continued to spit blood for like 40 minutes, which was like a decent one. And then when we got back to land, the pain in my lung was still there, and it was like pretty significant, and like almost like lightheadedness as well. I ended up having to sit down, but it was like, yeah, it was quite painful, and that persisted for about a day. And then certain movements, I'd just feel like I really wasn't getting like proper breath, so I'd be like a bit short of breath, and like really only taking shallow breaths, like just day to day kind of thing. So yeah, that was like a huge wake up that maybe I've done some decent damage, which isn't good. So
well, at least, I mean, while you were talking about that, I've now come up with a new business plan. It's called the breathalyzer for spearfishers, and basically, it's specifically actually for you, Sam. And you have to dive 3 dives to 5 meters before you're allowed to go any deeper. Then you got to do 3 dives to 10 meters before you're allowed to go to 20. And it's on a string on your float that doesn't get longer until you've done those dives. So it can be your childminder.
That's what I need. I need I need authority, or I need a device that like stops me from diving. Because as soon as I get into the water, I'm just like fixated on
Just go straight for it.
Yeah, especially when you've got big fish swimming around like those Chinamen. Like, yeah, realistically, I should have done like 5 or 6 dives before I was diving that depth, at least, like as bare minimum. And I just got excited and carried away. That's like one of the most dangerous things with spearfishing. It happens quite a lot with people with their shallow water blackouts. They'll actually dive down and they'll spend decent bottom time, and then they'll come up, and it's on their way up. They see fish, but they're already out of air. But because they've seen fish, they completely forget the fact that they've run out of air. So they have a little second dive down to try and, like on the same breath hold, to like try and get close to the fish. They might shoot the fish, they might not, but then when they come up, they black out because of that.
And so, talking about the video that you said that you know, from that you might upload sometime soon, how do you find getting the time to upload and do all of this for socials and stuff? Because you work a normal day job, right?
Yeah, so in Fiji it was a bit different because I work remotely. I work, like, I'm quite happy to work like 12, 14 hours a day, like 7 days a week. So for me, it's like, yeah, I don't have to do much in my spare time other than edit. So on the weekends and stuff, I'll edit. I start my days most days at 5 o'clock, and I'll like do a bit of editing and everything, and kind of go from there. And then I'll do editing in the evening when I finish work. Do that to about 10:30, 11:30 at night every night. But that's just me, like a froth it, and I love doing it. The videos give me as much enjoyment as the diving does. So yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine editing that stuff, man. It takes us long enough to edit these podcasts, never mind editing those videos. And it's I sympathize with some of it because it can get a bit much at times, but like it's almost you have to froth in this sort of thing to do it, don't you? I mean, you're not going to do it for any other reason, are you? You know, it's the same with us with this podcast. We love doing it, and that's why we do it. It takes up a load of our time, but yeah, we just manage it, you know.
Apart from me.
Well, you're the lazy one. Yeah.
No, I'm the one that's like I'm the beauty of the podcast.
So, Sam, you we don't want to keep it too much longer. So there's so much to unpack. Like it's just loads going on. But are you affiliated with AimRight? Is that right?
Yeah. So I basically just used their gear for a number of years and absolutely loved it. I've been really, really keen on supporting local business in Australia. Like, and when I was in the UK, I was the same. Like, I've just grown up with that kind of ethic. So when I came to Australia and was living here more permanently, I was like, right, I'm switching from OMA, which I grew up with, purely because of like, just a few incidents with their gear that I didn't enjoy. So I was like, right, okay, I want to support local. Let's go for Australia. What Australian brands are there? And Aimright came up as like being the best for building like high quality carbon guns, which I quite like. So purchased the gun, absolutely fell in love with it. The trigger mechanism alone, the safety feature on the trigger mech is an absolute game changer. Since having an Aimright, I've never lost a fish due to safety issues. Whereas with other guns, the safety would be jammed or it would be accidentally turned on when I didn't want it to be, and it just sucked. Whereas having the trigger mech works by it's got two triggers. So it's got a trigger that you operate with this finger. I don't know if the video is going to go live, but with one
Middle
finger,
finger.
and then your middle finger, and then you'll go your trigger finger is your normal trigger finger. But if you tried using the trigger finger without the middle finger engaged on the bottom trigger, the gun wouldn't fire, it's locked. So as soon as you engage with the middle finger, then the trigger finger becomes released, and then you can actually pull.
Just like a lawnmower, basically, but in a spear gun.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a nice way of putting it. But it's genius, and I don't understand why it's not implemented.
Yeah, it's a really good idea.
Everybody, go on.
Yeah, so I was going to say I've seen some of the one of their guns over in Spearfishing UK over this side. The Aimright guns, they look decent quality, man. Do you rate them for the UK then? Like I know, like you could get by with anything, but I mean, particularly UK, you know what it's like. Do you reckon they're any decent for you?
Definitely. I've used my 85 roller in the UK with like huge success. It's been amazing. I'm not sure. So Aimright kind of created another brand called Genesis that was kind of operated under Aimright, but it's like its own separate brand. And I'm not sure if the guns in the UK are Genesis or Aimright, but I haven't fired a Genesis, and I believe that they're kind of targeted at like the not the budget market, but like the lower end of the scale, whereas the Aimright brand's more like premium end. So I don't know, but if there's Aimright in the UK, it will be good. But now I'm fully sponsored.
I've definitely seen one in Spearfishing UK. So yeah, nice man.
Awesome.
Your Aimright
nice.
carbon gives me a hard on. It's
ridiculous.
the only thing, and in fairness, your Aimright, now they're not wetsuits, are they? They're like rash vests or rash suits.
Yeah, they're lycra suits.
Yeah, that you wear for your like your oh god, my brain's gone blank again with fucking dementia. Your hike and spear.
Yeah.
I always feel like it looks like you found it in a bin and you've been wearing it for fucking years. And whenever I see you in your videos and you get it on, I'm like, he definitely nicked that off a hobo. Like, but how long have you had that?
I am not kind on gear at all. Like any like gear, I'm just ruthless with it. Hey, like with the wetsuits and the lycra, like I've slipped down cliffs in it. Like it's been through hell. My guns, I think Travis, the owner of Aimright, would be disgusted if he sees the way that I get into UK waters sometimes. Where
I saw one in the video.
Where I threw my gun and the gun was clipped to the float line, and the float line just snagged the smallest branch on the planet, and it meant that I threw my gun like off like a 10-meter cliff, and it didn't make it to the water.
It just smashed into the side of the cliff.
Yeah.
It was
And I
one
was
of your
just there, like,
videos. Yeah, you were doing the dive bomb in, and you just launched your gun in and then jumped in after it. I was like, that is a man of my own heart. Fuck this, climbing down that thing. I'm just gonna jump in.
yeah, no, just jump in, bugger that. Because if you climb down, you're gonna slip. It's gonna take up like diving time, and yeah, it's gonna be a drama there anyway. Just fucking launch, just get in, get
that
wet.
was funny when I saw
I
that.
saw one of the spray jobs they'd done on one of those guns, man, on Instagram. It looked mental. It had like blue skulls and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, man, that looked
hydro
nice.
fin. They like the guns are ridiculous. Like they're head turning guns for sure, and they're just super durable. Like if that was a timber gun and I was throwing it off cliffs, the gun would know about it. That's one benefit of having the carbon, and the carbon massively benefits me because it's so lightweight. So for flying and everything, it's just a dream. And same for the hiking spears, it's just so light.
The only thing I'd ask is, so I've got an 85 roller that I bought from Start Point. I don't think it's a Start Point gun. It's made by obviously somebody that they then branded as Start Point. I can't fault the gun. I think I've got to bend the twin floppers out a little bit because it's not keeping fish. The floppers just aren't engaging once it kills a fish. But I do find that versus, so I've got a 75 what are they, Comanche or Apache, something like Cressy, with a dual band versus that, and it's a 75 versus an 85 roller. That 85 roller feels like trying to move a 12-foot log through the water. Like it's so much like I wouldn't even say 4 or 5 times. I'd say like 10 times worse moving that through the water than it is a twin band normal gun. Do you use normal twin bands much?
No, I don't use since I've switched to rollers, I don't use normal guns again. I don't think I'd ever go back. But I can tell you what I think the issue would be. So having a roller, you've obviously got bands now at the bottom as well as on the top. So you're increasing your drag. And if you've got a tube gun, which I highly suspect that will be like just a straight pipe, the hydrodynamics of it, you basically push water in, and then it will, like, from when you move the gun, you'll get like twice the force hitting it because of some of the water will go between the bands, but then it will kind of ripple on the second band. So you just created like extra drag on the gun. Whereas when you've got a cuttlebone designed gun, it just cuts through, and it works so well with the rollers. Like I've used cuttlebone ET standard gun, like 2 bands. That was the last Oma I had before I had the Oma carbon roller that I got my dramas with. And that was like a good gun, but on the rollers I feel like the cuttlebone, like, just it works perfectly.
That's the proper setup.
The Aimrite 85 that I've nicknamed Poseidon's roller, that's got like a curved cuttlebone design, whereas the double Vendetta roller that I've been using a lot in Fiji has got a real sharp like design, and I prefer the smoother design of the 85 to the double Vendetta, but the double Vendetta just like slices through the water.
Nice.
So it's quick to move. But
and price wise, I know that obviously I think, as Rich was saying there, I think they're in the UK, but price wise in Oz, what's the price of something like your favorite roller 85?
So my 85, it was a completely custom gun. So Aimrite does custom builds. So I think it would have been around the, I want to say like 1600 mark. But that was based on the old pricing when Aimrite used to distribute to stores. Now that they sell their products like solely online in Australia, they don't distribute via stores. They've managed to slice like 30% off the cost of everything. So nice, I think you're looking in pounds, probably around like maybe £500 or £600, something like that.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, not horrendous.
I just had a Google while we're talking there, just so we can give the listeners correct information. On Spearfishing UK, it's actually under Aimrite Genesis, so it's obviously the other brand name that we're talking about. But it does say Aimrite Genesis, so I'm not sure. But just to clarify that for everyone.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
haven't
that's
used
the
any
Genesis
Genesis.
brand underneath Aimrite. So that is Aimrite's brand is Genesis, but it's not an Aimrite. It's an Aimrite
Yeah,
Genesis. Yeah.
yep, correct. So I think even the stickers on the guns, they don't say Emrite. I think they just say Genesis. But I haven't used the Genesis, so I can't comment on it.
Yeah, cool. Oh, awesome. Well, Christ. If ever you get bored of your carbon, oh, I got dibs. I got dibs.
When I come back to the UK, I'm gonna bring, I think, 4 guns back with me on the next trip. So I've got 4 Aimrites. So yeah, we'll go
Wow.
out for a dive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although
Even
someone's
just
gonna
as
have to suffer with a 125 in UK waters.
well, I'm probably going to end up getting the short straw, considering I'm the longest person that's spearfishing. So I'll probably get it because comparatively, it's probably shorter for me.
Yeah. Can you imagine me trying to load that?
Ben loading a 125. Right, if we just stick it on the beach and then we get a tractor so that we can load it, that'd be fine. But you were just saying a second ago, so you're going to be traveling back to the UK with a load of guns. How do you find traveling with spearfishing and all of your gear? Is it a nightmare as much as I think it would be, or?
It can be. It depends on the airline and it depends on the day. So frequent flyer is like, I think it's an absolute must. If you're going to be flying, try and accumulate like a frequent flyer so you get additional baggage and all the perks of like skipping queues and priority service and so on, because of it really makes a difference. Checking in spear guns can be a hassle, so I avoid using the term spear gun now, and I just say that it's like fishing equipment, because of there's all kinds of rigmarole that you have to jump through. When I last, during COVID, it was March 2020, I traveled from Australia to LA to the UK, and the US made me, or they were trying to find me like $10,000 US for smuggling a firearm into the country.
Wow.
And then we unboxed the whole thing, and instead of them admitting that it wasn't a firearm, they treated it as a firearm but let me off the fine. But I had to purchase a hard shell for it. At the time it was in a soft shell case, and then I needed to separate the spears from the spear guns and store the spears in a separate case, and then everything needed to be padlocked, so I needed to purchase all of those things at the airport, which was incredibly impractical. And yeah, I was so annoyed. And they listed it as, it came with a tag saying like firearm, everything, like restricted item, firearm. And then at Heathrow Airport, because of the madness of COVID, they just dumped it out the front of the conveyor belt,
Whoa.
completely unattended, and it's got a massive label on it saying firearm and everything. So it was just like ridiculous contrast of yeah, security, I guess. But for the most part, it's like really simple. You just get on a plane, you check it in, it goes in as oversize. I use a sports tube, which I absolutely love. They're great. They've got their faults, but they are like great. They protect your gear. Check that in, and then that's kind of it. And I see it on the other side most of the time.
Nice.
Cool, man.
Boys.
So,
Right, go on. Sorry.
no, sorry, my internet's dropping out then again. Yeah, so just going on to like, we've talked about all the scary stories. Have you got like any super funny stories for us?
Super funny stories. Trying to think. Yeah, like there definitely have been like hilarious moments in the water. I seem to couple the really funny stuff with Andy, like my dive buddy in Sydney. And one time we went out for kingies, like we were sure that we were going to come across kingies at this spot. It was just like everything felt right. Like the conditions were perfect. It was primed for kingfish. And we couldn't see any. And I think Andy stumbled across one, but it was like in the distance. So I needed a blue poo. So I was like, Andy, mate, I'm going for a BP. I'll be back in a bit. So I swam like 40 meters away from him, obviously down current of him, and took my crap. And as I took my crap, like I saw kingfish like come past me, and my wetsuit was like down by my ankles. So I pulled that back up and swam out into a school of yakas, which are mackerel, and then dove down into the school of mackerel. And it was the first dive after the poo. And yeah, boom, kingfish shot. It was like a 20-kilo kingy, which was wicked. Was it 20
Nice, man.
kilos? Yeah. It was a decent kingy. I can't remember if it was 20 kilos or if it was that was
The image of you trying to get a 20-kilo kingy on a boat while your cacks are down your ankles. It's like, I had a
this was a
shit.
humble rock pop. This is a humble rock pop. Yeah, you're just floating in the water, pants down, take a poo, and kick a little bit, kick
And
every
shoot-
couple of seconds.
Shoot your fish.
Yeah. I know that feeling, man. I know that feeling.
Well,
I feel like you're not an authentic Spiro unless you've done a sea poo, eh?
Yeah, oh, definitely. It's the most vulnerable you can feel as a man, I think. Yeah, it's incredibly humbling, especially in like great white territory, and you just
Yeah, right.
right.
it's just like, yeah, it's fun. It's an experience.
Well, talking a bit
Yeah.
more about the fish that you got obviously caught abroad, I mean, you must be like a pig in shit going across and getting the crustaceans and the lobsters out there, considering they haven't got any claws.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but then it comes with its own unique challenges. So the ones in Sydney and South Australia and like across the southern parts of Australia, they've got spines as defense. So you've got them in the spiny lobster family, and yeah, they've got spines as defense. But I mean, if you've got like decent Kevlar gloves, you can get them without like ripping your hands to bits. I've actually, it was maybe 3 weeks ago. I shot lobster, which was my third time ever shooting lobster.
I saw that.
Not particularly enjoyable thing to do, but I mean, yeah, it's the way it's done there, and my gloves were torn to crap. Otherwise, I would have gone for a reach grab. But yeah, there's plenty of lobsters here, and I spent a good probably over 3 years. I've probably spent like a good 6 months just solely diving for lobsters. So I'm pretty in tune with water temps, weather patterns, pressures, when they start to appear, when they start to disappear, when they move, what can cause them to move, and then like just key signals that they're around. So yeah, lobsters here are one of my like specialties.
And what are they like compared to the ones we have? I've just had one, caught one yesterday afternoon. Delicious. I've never tried one of those spiny lobsters, which is, I guess, the closest cousin to the rock lobsters out there.
Yeah, and they behave like really quite differently. So they quite like being in groups. They're far more social than the lobsters that we have in the UK. So it's not uncommon at a few of my like best honey holes. I'll stick my head under and there might be 40 to 50 lobsters
No way.
space of like 2 meters, and they're literally all bunched up. They can't fit another lobster in there. They're all just like stuck to each other because there's no space.
Wow.
So I guess that they go for safety in numbers, or perhaps they're just chatty lobsters and they enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, but
Did
you not notice the bowl of keys at the front door?
Yeah.
Actually, you've stumbled across a lobster sex game.
Yeah.
This is how they breed. So,
Is-
what you were saying earlier on, where you shot a lobster. So, just going a little bit back into it. So, obviously, in the UK, the laws and legislations are that you can only hand catch crustaceans. Specifically with lobsters, you are definitely not allowed to shoot them because one, you need to make sure they're the correct size. Two, you need to make sure that they're not a buried female, and then three, over and above that, you need to make sure that they're not V-notched. Is the laws and legislation out there that, well, it's kind of all fair game, or
So, the lobster that I shot was in Fiji, where it is completely fair game to shoot them. You're not allowed to take buried lobster in Fiji, so it's just one thing to like inspect. And if I couldn't like see the lobster buried or unburied, then I wouldn't have taken the shot. But yeah, they've obviously got a legal size as well, but you can tell when lobsters are like past that, especially when they're like a decent size past that. If it's just like a centimeter in it, probably wouldn't take the shot, but if it's like 3 centimeters in it, you know that like that's decent. So we measure our lobsters same as UK, just the carapace.
Mhm.
In New South Wales, where I am currently, it's strictly hand only. We can't use snares, we can't use guns, like you can't shoot them. It's just hands, and that's it. Which I actually prefer. In Queensland, so the state north of here, they're allowed to shoot them. So it varies state to state and country to country. Most of the South Pacific, they're allowed to shoot them. And yeah, in Queensland. And I sort of see like pros, it's opened kind of a decent conversation around it when I did that post, because loads of people have posted against it, saying like, oh, that's like terrible, why the fuck are you shooting that, that's illegal, you're going to go to jail, not knowing that obviously it's in Fiji where it's completely legal. It's usually guys from the US that comment all of that, like, dude, what the fuck, you can't do that, you're going to jail. It's like, well, no, I'm in Fiji. I've said that I'm in Fiji, but different rules, American rules. But so the perks of shooting the lobster is a quicker death for the lobster. You're far more guaranteed to land the lobster as opposed to just injure the lobster. So with the spiny lobsters, they've got these huge antennas that come out and stick out from under the rocks. And if you're unsuccessful in getting the lobster, more likely than not, you will have snapped the lobster's antenna off, one or two of them. If it's really unlucky, it might have even lost a couple of legs during the ordeal, which puts huge stress on the lobster and makes it very vulnerable to predation because of scent, like the blood and everything leaking out of the antenna holes and the leg holes will attract octopus, sharks, things that eat the lobster. So I've learned a lot of positives to shooting, but ultimately I'm still much more of a fan of using the hands. I think it's just fairer game, and like it sounds weird when it comes to like taking an animal's life, but it's more fun to grab a lobster than it is to shoot a lobster.
Oh,
Fair enough.
gotcha. 100%.
We normally reach out and ask listeners for questions, and they did give us some, but we're running out of time. So I think we've mostly covered it, to be honest. There is one listener's question. But before we jump on that, just real quick fire question. Who inspires you the most, or who has inspired you the most during your spearfishing time?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say in terms of YouTube, back to basics, DS Living. DS
nice.
Living sadly passed away now, but awesome. And then in terms of like actual diving, the Aim Right team massively. Matt Hill, as always, he's always been like a fantastic diver. But yeah, some of the divers within Aim Right are just exceptional.
Awesome.
And the people that I've met along the way on my travels, everybody that I get to dive with, I like try and take something away from diving with them, positive or negative. And I massively appreciate just that the experience shared.
Yeah, so we got the one listener's questions. I think the rest we've pretty much covered based on, really.
We might want
So
in
we
green.
won't go
I don't
in.
know if it's because you didn't want to ask it, but should we ask it anyway from Ethan off of Jack Wreck Adventures?
Yeah, no, that's all right, man. I'm sure it's all good. So
what shampoo do you use for your mullet? Is the question.
Mostly just so in Fiji it's just spring water. I actually don't use any shampoo or anything. It's just salty and dirty, and then gets cleaned with spring water every now and then. That's it.
That's the way to do it, man.
Well, my missus will be singing your praises because she is not a fan of shampoo. She's always like, it strips your hair of its natural oils and all of its protection, which I kind of get, actually. But, well, for the listeners, just for anybody that is wondering, Sam's mullet is banging, as well as his mid-parted moustache.
Yeah, that's natural as well. So that's
you don't need to shave. Amazing.
I've got I don't need to shave. Nothing grows. I've got a scar that runs up my lip and then up my nose, and there's just no hair growth. Obviously, you don't get hair on your nose, but
I was wondering I was wondering whether you did that for diving, whether it doesn't make the mask leak or something.
I've evolved to dive. Yeah.
We can see that. Yeah, sweet, man. Really appreciate you coming on. Like for any listeners that want to like reach out or just like watch your videos and stuff, just want to like tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. So across the board now it's Wet Mammal. So YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Yeah, just for lots and lots of spearfishing, bits of like camping, cooking, and yeah, a bit of hiking adventure, but mostly spearfishing.
Well, all I can recommend to everybody from Sam's stuff on YouTube is you've got the playlist, haven't you, set up of your hike and spear.
Yeah, hike and spear. Yeah.
If you've got a weekend of doing nothing, just get popcorn, get some beer, and just literally press play from episode 1. It's an awesome journey watching Sam falling down hills and jumping in the sea in hobo clothes. That is his aim right outfit. Thank you so much for coming on, Sam. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you very much for all your information. But the last word on it is stop fucking pushing it, because you're gonna kill yourself, cunt. And if you don't, I will. So
that's the advice that's the exact advice I've received from the doctor, my mum, and I think everybody who knows me. So yeah.
Good. Well, we want you around for a long time. You know, I think Noob Spiro just had their 200th episode. And we need you to stick around so that we can get a shout and a message from you at our 200th episode. So, but no, very much looking forward to diving with you when you get back to the UK.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Massively appreciate it. It's always good.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, man, just coming on, dude. Really appreciate it.
Well, enjoy your day at work. We're all half cut. And it's only 8 o'clock with you. So excellent. Cheers, Sam. We'll speak to you soon.
Catch you later, mate.
Enjoy. Take care.
Cheers, mate.
Dude.
Bye.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Well, boys. Every time.
Go on, Rich. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Bloody hell, boys. That was a good one, eh?
Yeah, cracking. Well, he's got so much experience, hasn't he? Spearfishing since, what do you say, 13?
Yeah.
Well, it's just, like guys like that live it, you can just tell it. It's just,
incredible adventures. If you haven't checked out his channel, please do, because it's just so much great content on there. Very impressive.
Yeah.
No, he's a bloody good Spiro, and I've watched a lot of his YouTube, as you can probably tell. I was really happy to have him on. But no, really decent guy, and I'm looking forward to diving with him when I can, when he gets into the UK, and also stealing all of his spear guns, obviously.
So, lads, what we got coming up then?
Well, we've got Max coming on, haven't we?
This is a Frenchman.
Nice. The Frenchman.
Yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to say that in a French accent. Is that racist now?
I don't know, man.
Ask Max.
We'll have to ask Max tomorrow. We're going to get complaints. Never mind.
Sam was calling those fish Chinamen, so I thought that might have been a bit out there, but
it's actually what they're called, isn't it? I think
they are called Chinaman fish. Yeah.
Hey man, I don't want no more messages on Facebook.
Well, and I learned something new. I didn't realize red mullet was a goatfish. Every time I've watched Sam's videos catching goatfish, I was like, oh, they look like red mullet, but they can't be the same.
Yeah. Well, so we're going out next week, aren't we, with David Mellor?
Oh, yeah, really looking forward to that.
Our diving session.
Friday.
I mean, really interesting now. We've all grown gills and should be able to hit some pretty good depths. And
what are each of you expecting from it? Like, just a quick.
I think I need to sort out my duck dive. That's I know I've got better, but I've kind of been teaching myself to get better and trying different things. So having someone to step back and take a look at it. I know that both of you guys have pretty good duck dives because I've been watching you. I've got a feeling mine's a bit shit. So having David give me a few tips.
You were doing better yesterday. I watched you a couple of dives and you were doing good.
And Anthony, what were you trying to, hoping, shall I say, to get out of it?
Hoping? You know exactly what I'm fucking doing when we go on Friday. And
what you did?
You know exactly what I'm doing. No, I'm not kissing his ass. I'm kicking your ass, boy.
Okay.
Who's going to have the deepest dive? Who's going to have the longest dive?
It's always got to be a competition.
Dangerous game.
Yeah, mate, listen, I love having the old competition. Who's going to win the species comp? But I think that's a bad idea. Who's going to have the deepest dive? But
I'm sorry. That sounds like the words of a pussy.
That's a recipe for passing out, mate. To be honest.
Well, I'll be there to suck your mouth when you shallow water black out. So.
Please do not let him give me resuscitation breast.
Who would you rather?
What, you don't want me to use my tongue?
I'm having Ben, please.
No, I think it'll be good. I mean,
honest.
you said the other day, a couple of weeks back, that you want to try and I'm being serious about this,
Yeah.
that you want to try and hit 30, right?
Yeah, 30 would be good.
Yeah,
I'm
30 is deep for us, even though
Yeah.
you know we well, I'm noob. You've been around for 5 years, but 30 is a deep dive for spearos.
Yeah, for spearing, yeah. I'm kind of really enjoying just free diving aspect of it right now, like more than spearfishing, actually, weirdly. I'm just really enjoying it since I went out with Tony on that wreck that we dived. I don't know, like the free diving aspect to me is like just really appealing at the minute. So I'm really enjoying that. And I feel like I've got 30 in the tank. I've done 25, I think it was before. So, and that was a couple of years ago as well. So I've definitely like got a lot more experience since then. So I think, to be honest, it depends on the day and every like loads of aspects. Hydration and sleep and everything else. So I'll just see how it goes on the day. If I could do 30, that'd be cool. If not, it's all good. Just pick up all the tips and tricks and stuff that David throws at us and just go from there. Right?
Yeah. No, I think the biggest thing for me at Vobster was the thermo, whatever they call it,
Thermocline, yeah.
Like, it gets so cold so quick,
Yeah,
and it's just like a massive shock. And so then you're just trying to overcome your adrenaline.
The one thing I'm not looking forward to is being cold, because when I went out today, I was super cold in my wetsuit.
Really?
When I was stalking the gillhead, obviously you can't move much, can you? So I was really, really cold, and obviously free diving the quarry, you don't move much either. So, if anyone out there wants to sponsor us some wetsuits, I'm all ears because mine's knackered.
How were you yesterday afternoon, Ben?
Cold wise,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
no worries. I think to the end of the dive, I was getting a little bit chilly, but not like too bad. I'm still in 3mm gloves. I find like gloves and socks make the biggest difference for me. And my socks are a little bit baggy. I think I need to get some new ones. Maybe go for like 6mm over the winter or something. I saw Dan Mann uses like mittens for gloves because when they're cold, so maybe that might be a good way to do it. But actually, this time of year, it's still what, I don't know, it was 15 degrees, something like that.
Yeah. See, I was sweating by the time I got out yesterday. I'm still in my 7mm suit, but
it was
quite
amazing.
A
walk up that hill.
Yeah, and by the time I got up the hill, once I took my trousers and top off, I had the torch in the back seats pointing downwards, so that I had a little bit of light, and the steam coming off me. I looked like I was on fire. It was awesome.
Yeah, nice, man. Well, we just wanted to. The last thing we want to do is just reach out and say thank you to all the listeners, because especially over the last couple of weeks, the downloads have gone crazy and it's doing really well. A lot better than, as we say, we've said this a couple of times, a lot better than we thought it would do. So we really appreciate everyone like jumping in and helping us out and listening and just really giving us good feedback as well. It's quite nice to hear, to be honest. So yeah.
No, thank you very much for listening. It's as Rich said, it's awesome to hear the feedback. It's awesome to see the feedback, and God help us if we ever let an episode go out 2 days late. the messages that we get, where's the podcast? Is it finished now? No, we're just being fat and lazy.
Well, we give up a lot of dive time as well, don't we, to do this? That's the thing that people don't realize, is that we give up a lot of our time to do this. And it's cool because we love it, but at the same time, it is a big commitment. But I think that will hopefully be, as we progress, it'll get easier, won't it? So
yeah, I'm always going to be around to spend an hour and a half of chat shit with you two.
Yeah, definitely, man. Sure. Well, boys, I'll catch you tomorrow.
Yeah,
awesome.
See you guys.
Speak to you soon. Look forward to Max.
Cheers.
Bye for now.
Thank you.